Hello there, everyone, to all my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue to one of my good old-fashioned reviews. Finally, after a week, I think it's been a week ever since the finale was released. Here I am, finally doing my Daredevil Born Again Season 1 review. I have to tell you guys, of all the MCU TV shows that were released until now, I would say after Moon Knight, Daredevil Born Again was my most anticipated MCU TV show after it was announced. And I have to tell you, my very old personal first thoughts right away. This show blew my mind. It blew my mind. For me personally, nothing was softened. Everything was exactly the way how I imagined it, with some twists and turns and revelations, some new characters, some new villains. Also at the same time keeping the same spirit as Netflix Daredevil did. Although there were some things in Daredevil Born Again that not even Netflix Daredevil had, but overall it didn't disappoint me at all. So without any further ado, let's begin, shall we? Now, before I even start, I just want to give you guys a warning for anyone who hasn't watched Daredevil Born Again at all right now. I'm gonna try to be as spoiler free as possible. I'm not gonna try to go into deep conversations to spoiler territory or anything. I want to try to be as spoiler free again as possible. So without any further ado, let's begin. So for anyone who hasn't seen Daredevil Born Again, in general, basically the overall premise of Daredevil Born Again is basically that it begins several years after the events of the Netflix Daredevil TV series, and also a year after Matt Murdock basically stopped his activities as Daredevil. And also in the very first season, we have basically Murdock continuing his overall fight for justice as a lawyer, while of course the one and only infamous Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, has returned to New York and is trying to be elected as mayor of New York City, which of course in the end he actually did, putting the pair on a collusion course. And believe me, this collusion course is on a apocalyptic level, if I can put it that way. Oh my god, their collision course in this show in season 1 was great. Was great from the first episode all the way till the end. Anyway, so that's kind of like the overall premise. Now, I know from some people it might be confusing when I said several years and then a year later, because let me put it this way, without going to spoiler territory. The first scene of episode 1 starts several years after the Netflix Daredevil. But after this one scene ends, then the current story is starts a year later after the events of the first scene in episode 1. I know for all of you guys it's a little bit confusing, but basically that's pretty much it. Now, to kind of go overall to the plot of Daredevil Born Again season 1. Basically, I have to tell you, I really like the story. I really like the way how they cooked. Not just simply the overall storytelling, but the character arc from Daredevil, Kingpin, Vanessa, to other supporting characters, to the Punisher, to the Muse, the way how they basically dived into the story of season 1. I felt it worked pretty good. I for me, none of the scenes, none of the moments, none of the characters were left out. I think I know there's gonna be some people complaining because I've already seen it, especially on YouTube. I know there's gonna be a lot of people complaining that there was a lot of moments in Daredevil Born Again that felt slow when it comes to some certain character moments or storytelling or a build up. There were some moments people have been telling that felt slow. Now, I will admit myself that even for me, some of the moments in the plot of season 1 felt slow. Okay, when it comes to keeping the story going or some certain build up. Yes, there were some moments that felt slow, especially if I have to put it this way. A build up to Matt Murdock returning as Daredevil like that. I would say that part of the plot for me felt a little bit slow, But I still think like this slow moments that the plot had, I think like they still felt earned. I still felt that they had their place. Like every single part of it, it still felt like it had a meaning. Like none of the moments felt for me out of place. Like so that's why I think like the overall story of season one was written really well. Like for me, when it comes to the overall plot, I had no objections for it. Like because it had everything I was hoping from like twists and turns and revelations, like emotional moments, serious moments, the gritty elements, dark elements. Like from the action, from like certain like character arcs and everything. For me personally, like everything fell into place. None of it for me. Not for when it comes to the overall plot. None of it felt left out, basically. So when it comes to the plot, I really have no negatives. Like I mean, okay. I mean, I did say like there were moments that felt the story was going slow, but those are like for me nitpicky comments. Okay, negatives, like really nitpicky. Like like for me, basically wishing that the story could have gone a little bit faster. But overall, for what we got, I had no complaints. Absolutely no complaints at all. Now, of course, I do have to talk about the main man, which of course is Matt Murdock, like Matt Murdock, aka the Daredevil. I mean, Charlie Cox. I mean, I knew he was great. I mean, he was great in Netflix Daredevil. He was great in the Defenders. I really liked the little cameo he had in Spider-Man No Way Home. But in this one, I think like he brought the Daredevil performance on another level, like on another level. The way how he performed through like not just simply Matt Murdock, but like even like through Daredevil, from like all the serious moments, the funny moments, the pain, the suffering, the anger, the thirst for violence, like every single element that makes Daredevil who he is. Charlie Cox brought it on another level. Like he was absolutely fantastic in the show, as always. And with that, I just simply kind of wait to see more of him in the MCU. I really, really do hope we see him more. Not just simply like in Daredevil, not just simply like in Daredevil season two, or like TV shows in general. Like we saw him a little bit in Echo as well. But I want to see him like with other superheroes, like Spider-Man, or even like Echo, or like the like maybe the rest of the Avengers. I don't know. And like the point is, I want to see more of Charlie Cox as Daredevil, because what he did as a performance in this series, he was absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. The only critique I have is the overall bloody double D that he didn't have on his chest in the costume, But after seeing some set pictures of the season two, it looks like in season two I might get my wish. But anyway, every single thing for Daredevil, that I've seen in the season one was great. Like I said, the build up to his costume, basically, like putting the costume back on, that felt a little bit slow, as I mentioned before. But overall, everything felt worth it, Like and the overall character arc that he went through the entire season was absolutely handled so well, absolutely well. Charlie Cox did an amazing job in both worlds as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. He was absolutely amazing. I have no complaints to his performance. He was absolutely great. I love his interactions with Kingpin. I love his interaction with Punisher. Oh, I mean, that scene when the Punisher first appeared, oh my God, that scene was priceless. That scene for me was Oscar element for me. Like, oh my God, like, like, oh man, I really I can tell you a lot of things about his portrayal as Daredevil, but he was absolutely amazing. Every single time he was on screen, lawyer or in a costume, he always had such a strong presence every single time. Which brings me, of course, to the main villain of season one, and of course, I'm talking about the main man, Kingpin. Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean, again, just like with Charlie Cox's Daredevil, like I loved him in Netflix Daredevil. I loved him in Hawkeye. I loved him in Echo as well. And in here, it made me love him even more. He was absolutely amazing, and that's one of the things I love, and that's why I think like it's one of the things that is missing in the MCU like TV shows, because usually what happens is when you have a main villain, usually what those TV shows do, they basically reveal them until like at the very end, like in the final episode or like before the final episode. But but in Kingpin's case, he was present the whole time. He was present throughout the entire like season one. Like I mean, some of them, well, with the exception of that episode that has to do with bank robbery, like exception of that. But everything else, like he was present the whole time. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But just like Daredevil had his presence, Kingpin, oh my God, he was phenomenal. Okay, he was phenomenal in the show, and especially like especially what I love is like like you can like especially the overall journey that his character had. After everything happened in Netflix Daredevil, after everything that happened in Echo and Hawkeye as well, like I really love like basically you can see in his eyes like he's trying to change, he's trying to not to be just simply as violent as he always was, his reputation, but also at the same time trying to be a new man. And every time, like every bit, like every piece, basically every trail, every piece of his character arc, like you can see he's struggling. He's struggling, like he's trying to be a good mayor, but at the same time, he's trying to build his own overall criminal empire and try also, not to be as violent as he was before. But of course, woo, the way how he's struggling, also, the way and that like there's one specific scene in the finale. I'm not gonna go into details. But there's one scene in the finale that basically makes you realize that his overall battle against his violent nature, it didn't work. It didn't work because something happens that that basically marks not just simply that he's back in his violent side, but also at the same time that he is the Kingpin. I mean, besides like his violent side, like him as a villain, like he was written so well in season one. I mean, I know that I've seen some people complaining that he's saying like, oh, Kingpin is not doing anything. He's just simply sitting on his desk and everything, like doing nothing. Like Vanessa is doing way more than him. I disagree on that. Like Vanessa, yeah, sure, like he's maybe doing some actions, but like Kingpin, as of course he was in the comics, Kingpin is the puppet master. Kingpin is the mastermind from the shadows, because that's exactly what Kingpin is. Like he's plotting every single thing, from the shadows. So that way, like every single thing that happened will not basically lead to him, because he's trying to keep that public image of himself as the mayor. And I still like, I have to tell you, like ever since like the revelation in Echo, like I still cannot believe that they're doing that storyline from the comics where basically he becomes the mayor and trying to do this like anti-vigilante program. Like it is so interesting, and the way how they have written it, like it's simply brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But anyway, Vincent D'Onofrio, again, just like Charlie Cox's Daredevil, he brought another amazing performance as Kingpin. And one thing for certain, I cannot wait to see what they're going to cook for him in season 2. I just simply cannot wait. He was amazing. He was amazing, in the series, as always. Now, I will say this, like when Daredevil and Kingpin are together, they're both stealing the show. But when Kingpin is alone, for me, he steals the whole thing. Like, he is the star of the show. Like, so, I mean, like, usually when you have a show like that, you usually think, like, which of the characters will steal the show? Which of the characters, like, will be the spotlight? Well, in this case, it's a tie. It's a tie between Kingpin and Daredevil. But either way, Kingpin, again, to kind of basically cut the story short, Kingpin was great in the show. I really liked him. I really liked him as a villain. I thought he was written really well. The overall presence, the overall presence that he had in the show, the the evil demeanor, also his side as the mayor, like it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I would say like I couldn't even believe that even Kingpin sometimes could have like some funny moments, because he did have some funny moments in season 1, especially when he was trying to do his job as a mayor. There's a certain scene where basically you can see that He's trying to keep his anger, not to snap at anybody. Like it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You know. But also one of the other things I do have to mention before I go to other characters, like I really love his relationship with Vanessa. Like I love his relationship. I love his relationship with Vanessa in Netflix Daredevil. But I thought their relationship in Daredevil Born Again, I thought it was actually way more interesting. He actually made the relationship way more interesting and also conflicting. I'll put it this way: they had a very interesting and conflicting relationship. And also I'm kind of surprised they turned Vanessa into a villain because, like, I do remember from the comics and every single iteration, outside the Netflix Daredevil, like she was never a villain. As a matter of fact, she always had a problem with Kingpin being a criminal and everything. But in this one, they made her as a crime lord. Like they put her into the criminal wave, just like Kingpin was. I mean, that's interesting. That is an interesting change. But overall, their relationship was also great in the show as well. Every single scene that Kingpin had was brilliant. I had no complaints with him as a character. And that's what I really, really wish to see in the future of the MCU TV shows. I want to see more villains present, not simply in one episode, but like numerous episodes. Okay, I just want to see them present in the story the whole time, and because exactly what the Kingpin was as well. With that, and with that being said, I mean, I have to talk about one more character for this, and then of course is the villain Muse. Now, besides Kingpin and Vanessa, the Daredevil Born Again didn't have too many villains, with the exception of one, and that is Muse. Now, Muse for me, I know, like he's one of those villains in the comics that I believe not a lot of people know about. But I always found him, at least for myself, I always found him to be one of the most interesting Daredevil villains I was introduced in the comics. And when I first announced that he's going to be in the show, I was like, wow, I was really hyped because I really liked his overall character in the comics. And I have to tell you, in the show, they did not disappoint. They did not disappoint. Not just simply they gave him a comic accurate costume, but also like the overall, the overall characteristics of his villainous character, from like his personality, the overall little character arc they give him, like and also kind of like the reason behind why he became the Muse and everything. Like I would say, like the Muse, every single part of of every single moment where the Muse was on screen, like I would say it's also one of the most darkest moments in season one for sure. Especially like when it comes to him and his victims. Because if anyone doesn't know, he's basically a serial killer who paints with his victim's blood. That's basically what he does. And his lair, so comic accurate. Oh my god, so comic accurate when it comes to his lair. Like literally, if I have to put it this way, he's basically a homicidal artist. If I had to quote Jack Nicholson's Joker, he is basically a homicidal artist. That's basically who he is, and I thought he was handled pretty well. And the fight between Daredevil and him was also brilliant as well. Absolutely brilliant. So the Muse was handled really well in the show, even though I don't want to go into spoilers, but I do hope somehow they find a way for him to return in season 2. Although for some people, including myself, will think like that's difficult to say. That's very difficult to say that he's going to return after what happens. But there are some rumors going around that he might return in season 2. How, I don't know, but if he does, I'll be very, very happy. But overall, if this is basically what we're gonna see of the Muse in the MCU, basically, I was still satisfied. Everything about it, was absolutely great. Now, with that being said, like I do have to mention, like other characters, like. Of course, we had Foggy, we had Karen Page, returning from Netflix Daredevil. I felt like their roles were handled pretty well. Although some people might admit, and also include myself, I know that I would have wished that maybe we had a little bit more of them, But after the way how certain events in episode 1 happened, I kind of understand the reason why they were not involved that much, and everything, But overall, like, I really like their overall addition to Born Again as well, and also like there was a lot of like new characters in the show. Like for example, the therapist Heather Glenn. Also, like I said, BB Urich, the journalist, the niece of Urich that, well, basically Kingpin gave him strangling treatment in Netflix Daredevil, like, which I thought like it was a nice, I thought it was a nice continuation. Also, Bullseye, he also has returned from Netflix Daredevil, and I thought like, I for the usage they have for him in Born Again, also I thought it was actually pretty good, and everything, all the way until the end. And also I've seen from what I've seen from the set, he looks like he's also going to return in season 2. So I cannot wait to see what they're going to plan for Bullseye in season two as well. But for what I got, like, Wilson Bethel as Bullseye, like, I thought he was great. The only complaint I had for Bullseye is that why the hell they're not giving him his comic accurate costume. I'm serious. Like, I mean, he looks cool, the way how he looked, like, in the first app, in season 1, but it's still like I'm wondering, like, why the hell they're not giving him his comic book costume? Like, I'm really baffled about that. I really am. But overall, I liked him as well. They didn't like underuse him or anything. Also, I like the cop. Also I like the cop who was helping Matt Murdock. Throughout the entire season 1, I thought like the henchmen of Kingpin, these like 2 assistants, I thought like they were also pretty interesting as well. Alongside Matt Murdock's like a lawyer partner, I thought she was great as well. Overall, like besides Karen Page and Foggy, I thought like the new characters in the show thought like they were all interesting. None of them were like felt. None of them felt like they were left in the corner. None of them felt like underused or underdeveloped. Like I felt like each and every one of them had their moments. So with that being said, like none of them, I had no complaints about them. But I do have to talk about just a little bit about this guy. Okay, I had to talk a little bit about the Punisher. Like I will be honest, guys. Like he only appears twice in season 1, but let me tell you, every single presence that he had, he owns it. He fucking owns it. Like from like certain like dialogues, certain dialogues to the action sequences. Oh my god! Like I do have to say, John Bernthal, I think that's his last name. Like John Bernthal, I really like his performance as Daredevil as Punisher in Netflix Daredevil. I liked him in his own TV show as well. And seeing him return again, in the Punisher character, it was just simply amazing. One of my favorite moments, I have to tell you, one of my favorite moments about Punisher is, of course, a lot of people are going to say, the season 1 finale when Daredevil and Punisher had to fight, basically the task force that Kingpin set on them and everything, But my favorite moment between Punisher and Daredevil was when Daredevil visited Punisher's lair and they had like a strong conversation. That for me was my favorite Punisher moment. Absolute favorite Punisher moment, and also kind of describing the character himself. Like it was just simply great. Like I said, he had limited screen time. I will admit that, but every single moment he was in, he was absolutely great. Absolutely great. Like he literally. I mean, I always thought Ray Stevenson, God bless his soul, was always my favorite Punisher. But I will say this: like John Bernthal, like he is my second favorite Punisher, 100%. He just like Charlie Cox's Daredevil or Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Like he now owns this role. He owns this role as the Punisher. Like he is great, and for that I cannot wait for the Punisher special. I really cannot wait because the way how the credit scene played, I cannot wait for it. I cannot fucking wait. So overall, even the Punisher's role in Daredevil Born Again season 1 was great for me. Like none of it felt out of place. Now, with that being said, one of the other things that really impressed me about the Daredevil Born Again season 1 is that the overall connections, and not just simply like Netflix Daredevil, like, but also the overall connection to the MCU. I mean, you can see like throughout the entire season one, they're trying to make it like make this show connected, with Netflix, like Daredevil, like like all the way from the beginning to the very end. But also, at the same time, what I love about it is that they're trying to acknowledge also Daredevil, being in the MCU as well. Like for example, like there are like certain moments where basically, they connected Daredevil, with Echo, or like Secret Wars, or even Miss Marvel. Like of all the things, even with Miss Marvel, like which was absolutely a great addition, absolutely a great addition to Daredevil Born Again. Like I mean, I was kind of planning that they're gonna try to keep it connected to the Netflix, but also the way how they also connected them into to the MCU, really nice touch, absolutely really nice touch, you know. And of course, if you've watched Miss Marvel or Secret Wars, Secret Invasion, man. I mean, I'm so hyped up for Secret Wars. I'm saying Secret Wars all the time. No, what I meant was no, what I meant was like there's a certain connection even to Secret Invasion, basically, not Secret Wars. So anyone who heard me say Secret Wars, I apologize. I meant Secret Invasion, basically. Like there's a certain, and again, I love about like for like from characters, from like certain like moments, certain like name references. Like I just love the way how they connected Daredevil into the MCU as well. And I do remember there was even a connection with like Infinity War as well, because like overall at the end of the day, like Daredevil is now part of the MCU, so of course you're gonna have some connections, try to basically keep him inside the MCU family, and I thought they did splendidly. And now, of course, I do have to talk about this, the action, or as I like to call it, the bloodbath. Because I have to like, Netflix Daredevil, I do remember like, he had a reputation of being like, violent. But Born Again season one, I would say they're taking the cup home. They're taking the trophy home. Because in Born Again season one, now there's not a lot of violence, or even there's not a lot of action scenes. But when they're at it, oh boy, is it violent. Is it violent? Like like there's some even like violent moments that goes like into the gore element as well, like it's just absolutely amazing, like and there's still, what really shocks me is being like under Disney, they're still allowed to do all this, like it's amazing. It really baffles me a lot, but the overall action is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Like I said, there's not a lot of it, but when it's there, and it like takes your whole attention. That's for sure. It takes your whole attention all the way till the end. Oof. Which is another great thing that I really have to mention. Like like I said, because they really rise up the stakes when it comes to like the action. And it's really great, from like Daredevil moments, from like his fight with against Muse, or like Daredevil and the Punisher fighting together, or like Kingpin, like some like violent moments as well. Like I'm telling you, like they didn't slow down at all, which is why it's great the way how they still kept the same elements, and also at the same time added something more to it. Now the tone itself, now for Daredevil Born Again, I mean, it's gritty. It's dark, it's serious. It's not very lighthearted like other like typical like MCU TV shows. Like because I told you, like there's a lot of like emotional moments, to like darker serious moments, to the action, the overall like bloodbaths and everything. Like this show, like like I said, this show, you can definitely feel like even with the overall tone, they're trying to keep it on the same level as Netflix's Daredevil, but also adding something more. And again, I'm still surprised that Disney actually allowed this, which is great, which is absolutely great that they allowed this and everything, like they're giving them the liberty to do all this, which is absolutely amazing. And again, for a Daredevil story, for a Daredevil like storyline, it really fits this tone way more. It actually really fits. if you try to give like Daredevil, if you try to do a Daredevil TV show where basically it's all lighthearted, like typical like superhero tone that like that for example other like MCU TV shows had, with lots of humor and colors and everything, it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit at all. So I'm really glad they kept the same tone for sure. And with that being said, we have come to the final thoughts. I mean, overall, like I said, I was blown away with Daredevil Born Again season one. It really surprised me on every level. Like like Daredevil, like Charlie Cox's portrayal as Daredevil was amazing. Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, he was great. Vanessa, like she was great as well. I really liked the Muse villain. The Punisher was a badass as always. All the other like supporting characters were great, interesting. None of them felt left out. The story was written pretty good in my opinion. I mean, sure, like I said, yeah, there are some moments where you feel like the story is going slowly than usual and everything, but I still think that those slow moments fit their place. Like none of them felt like left out or like basically like being too long and everything. Like every single scene or moment had its purpose. So yeah. But I will admit, like I do feel like that maybe at some moments they could have made it a little bit faster. But overall, everything about from like the action sequences, the fights, the tone, the soundtrack, from like some character arcs, the emotions, the dark and serious tone, the violence, like everything was absolutely amazing in Daredevil Born Again season one. And with that, I cannot wait for what season two is holding. Especially the way how season one ended. I really cannot wait 2026 when season two comes out. But with that being said, I'm gonna give Daredevil Born Again a 8.5 out of 10. The only reason why it's not a 10 out of 10 for me is because, like I said, some storylines felt they went a little bit slowly than usual for me. Like for example, the build up to like Matt Murdock, basically returning as Daredevil again and everything. I felt like they took a little bit too much time. But again, that for me is like a very nitpicky thing. Because I still believe that everything had its place, had its moments, and the plan, basically. Like every single build-up, every single story felt right for me. But again, if I have to say on some nitpicky negative things, that is definitely, one of them. Also Bullseye not having the comic accurate, costume that I'm used to in the from the comics. But besides that, like I said, but besides that, also maybe they could have added a little bit more action. That's also sometimes I felt like they could have added a little bit more action. But like but still, for what I got, I was completely satisfied. So for me, an 8.5 out of 10 is fair enough when it comes to Daredevil Born Again season one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, one thing before I finish, I just want to say, like the way how they treated the Matt Murdock's character arc, it kind of made me feel like I'm watching Incredibles, but like on a serious and darker tone. The way, like how they're trying to live a normal life, with the system the way it is and the type of justice and everything, but also at the same time, getting like wishing to be out there fighting crime, getting the costume back on and everything. Like it kind of made me feel that, it kind of made me feel like watching The Incredibles. Like, but again, way more adult, darker, serious Incredibles. There's just one thing I just want to say. And with that being said, here I am done, guys. Rate the video, comment, subscribe, give me your personal thoughts and ideas. What did you feel about, if you watched Daredevil Born Again season one, what did you feel about Daredevil's character, Kingpin, Vanessa, Muse, the Punisher, all the other characters in season one? Everything about Daredevil Born Again season one in general, just put it in the comment section down below. And with that being said, here I am done, guys. As always, stay tuned for more. Lord of Shadows, like always, signing off. See you guys next time, or as I like to say it, later, fuckers.